One of my favorite questions that I get all the time is, Kevin, am I dealing with a narcissist or is it just an asshole? And I say, well, that's an interesting question. Well, why don't you share a little bit with me about what's taking place? What are you experiencing? That's going to help us out a lot. And then they will say, well, I am experiencing a lot of yelling and a lot of criticisms, and I've been called names and cussed at and threatened and demeaned and devalued and insulted publicly and in person. And then they use me for whatever, and then they leave and abandon me, and I'm neglected, and my needs don't matter, and on and on and on. And I say, well, that's interesting. It sounds to me like you're very miserable in the situation and in the circumstances. Now, how long have you been putting up with this? And then they'll say 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And Kevin, I'm done, but I just don't know. Are they narcissistic? I just need to know. Well, let's get into this. Now, before I do get into this any further, I want to let you know, those of you watching right now, I do take one-on-one appointments down in the description box. You'll find access for one-on-one appointments with me. I take telephone calls as well as video calls through Zoom, FaceTime, and WhatsApp. So if you are wondering whether or not you're dealing with a narcissist or just an asshole, and you really, really want to determine this because, well, you think it's going to make a difference, well, we'll get into that. Head on down there, schedule some time with me. I'd love to talk with you about this in greater detail. And yes, I am available all throughout the holiday season. So you do not have to spend the holidays alone. In addition to one-on-one appointments, I also have a coaching program. My coaching program is live and in person each and every day. This month, we are focusing on rethinking Christmas. So if you are spending the holidays alone for the first time, saying no to toxic people, no to toxic family, you don't want to be isolated, but you're better off alone, and you know it. You just need that extra push, that extra help, that extra support. Join the Royal Week Coaching Program this month as we rethink Christmas together. Now, let's get into this topic. Are you dealing with a narcissist or are they an asshole? And after typically letting out all the stuff that you're dealing with for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, the most important question back to you is, well, how are you doing? Obviously, you're not okay with this, right? You're miserable. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching videos. You wouldn't be reaching out to me talking. And so then I ask this very important question back. And I challenge each and every one of you with this question right now. What difference does it make if they are diagnosed as a narcissist or if they are diagnosed as an asshole? By the way, is asshole a diagnosis? I don't believe so. As a matter of fact, I think that we've lived in a society where a lot of people have prided themselves on being an asshole. I'm an asshole. In fact, I remember when I was dealing with narcissistic abuse from certain siblings that I was dealing with, I remember one of the comments that they made was, I'm an asshole. I know it. It's one of my best qualities. Okay. You do you. Now, this was before I stumbled upon the conversation of narcissism. Now, whether you're dealing with a narcissist or an asshole, either way, you're miserable. You're not happy. And knowing whether or not you're dealing with a narcissist or an asshole is not going to fix the problem that you're in. I think that one of the mistakes that you can make, and I've made this too, is when we're trying to determine what it is we're dealing with, whether they're a narcissist or a jerk or an asshole, what we're really doing is just wasting time. We're wasting time in a place, still trying to figure out ways in which we can solve a problem that's just unfixable. And by 10 years, 15 years, 20 years of being involved in this ridiculous relationship that you're in, at this point, in the context of your relationship, knowing whether or not you're dealing with a narcissist or just an asshole is not going to make a bit of difference. You know, if someone's swinging a baseball bat at you, you're not going to wait around long enough to say, is that an Easton or a Louisville Slugger? Because you're just going to get hit while you're trying to read the label, right? When law enforcement is chasing a suspect with a weapon, they're not going to stand in front of the dude with the weapon or dudette, whoever's holding the weapon, and say, "Oh, is that a Glock 9 or is that a Ruger?" No, they got a weapon. Drop the weapon. And they're going to react just to the weapon. Now, I think that this is important for you and I to understand this concept. And I know that this is extreme examples, but it's really not. When you're being abused in any situation, called names, criticized, threatened, yelled, screamed at, neglected, abused, we could just leave it at abuse. To be honest with you, we could put all diagnoses aside. We could put all labels aside and just leave it at, you have been abused for so long. And here you are trying to understand and determine what label is on the bat that's being swung at you. What kind of weapon is in your presence? When at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Because you're just going to get hurt. And what it speaks to is your nature and your desire to be a problem solver, to be a fixer, which is a human nature. I have that too. Many of us do. We're problem solvers by our nature. The issue is when you're in an abusive relationship, you're dealing with the problem that you can't solve. You're trying to understand the mechanisms of another person. And I'm going to take it a step further with you when we're talking about the mechanisms of another person, the behaviors of another person, whether it's narcissist, asshole, whatever. It really doesn't matter because you don't like it. You're miserable. You're unhealthy as a result. You're being beaten down. You're in fight or flight constantly. It really doesn't matter if it's a narcissistic label that you are able to put on the person or an asshole label you're able to put on the person. You're getting beat up either way, right? But I want to draw our attention to this concept that I've discovered because I think that as important as the topic of narcissism is, and I believe it is important, okay, it's not important because we need to really dive in and understand the diagnosis of narcissism. Now, I know there's all kinds of psychologists and doctors that are doing fantastic work at articulating what narcissism is and what it isn't, right? I'm not a doctor. And if you're not a doctor, then you should not really be focusing and trying to pay attention to these labels. These labels are used by doctors for clinical purposes. Now, unless you're in a situation where you're trying to understand this diagnosis for clinical purposes, then you can just leave it at abuse. And now let's get into why I use narcissism, why there's this growing trend of narcissism. It's really not here to address anything new. What it is a way in which we can articulate and now verbalize, and we now have an opportunity to expose something that we are experiencing with another person. And now, granted, maybe some of you doctors who are watching this right now, you might be saying, Kevin, the royal way, this is wrong. This is not how narcissism should be used. And I get it, and I understand this principle, but I know that you also understand this principle, that abuse is abuse, no matter what the diagnosis or label is. And not a single one of you doctors out there, psychologists, would recommend anybody wait around in an abusive relationship to figure out what they're dealing with. Am I right? Right. So we can all agree on this one thing, that abuse is abuse. But now, what the word narcissism or narcissistic personality or NPD, what it's allowed is it's allowed you the opportunity to let something sink in. What's sinking in? What's sinking in is your inability to cope with and deal with and fix and solve this issue. And oftentimes, when we just come from a background of calling somebody an asshole or a jerk, that's not quite enough to stay away from them. Why? Well, because those labels have been watered down. Those labels, have been kind of made, they're funny. In fact, right now, we've got people out there that have dominated the TikToks and the mainstream viral videos being assholes and making it look like it's fun, right? And so, as a result, these words, they're an asshole. Okay, why? I can deal with that. No, No, you can't. You're going to be hurt no matter what because you're not equipped. It's not your personality to be able to be in a relationship with an asshole. It's not mine either. I don't want to be involved with assholes. Now, I'm reminded of the movie Back to the Future. It was like one of my favorite movies as a kid. How many of you remember the movie Back to the Future? There's the classic bully, Biff, right? And what a great job that guy, that actor did with that character, Biff. He's like, hello, McFly, knocking on the guy's head. Butthead. Now, you're doing my homework, aren't you? McFly, hello? Now, I want to make sure it's turned in on time. You don't want me to get attention now, do you? Right? And it's classic, but in one of the scenes, Marty McFly just stood back and said, "The guy's an asshole." Right? I believe that this was spoken because at the time, narcissism wasn't a popular word. And it wouldn't have sounded as funny, probably, him saying, "That guy's a narcissist." But the point is that it doesn't matter. It's not a person you want to be around. And that point was made evident when they portrayed that bullying character, Biff. Nobody wanted to be around him except for his little crew of thoughtless people that ran around with him. They all kind of did the same thing, chewed their gum and waited around for who they can beat up. Assholes, right? When we talk about narcissism, though, it gives you something a little bit more aggressive to stand on and say, okay, this is dangerous, because it is. Even being around an asshole can be dangerous, and that's really what you need to pay attention to. Not whether or not they're a narcissist or an asshole. You need to pay attention more towards the danger that you are in. Remember, someone swinging a bat at you. You don't stand around just to read the label. What is it? Louisville Slugger or an Easton? It doesn't matter. It's a bat swinging at you. Okay, law enforcement's not going to pause and put everybody on hold to say, I think they got a Glock 9. No. I think it's a revolver. No, they're not. It's a weapon. Narcissist, psychopath, either one, asshole, whatever you want to call it, it could be a weapon against you. And this is all you need to focus on. I'm going to make a point. I've made this point before. This is just my opinion. Okay. So I believe that all of the different diagnoses in this topic, whether it's narcissist or psychopath or sociopath or the cluster Bs or whatever. Again, if you're a clinician, it matters because you can help work with those people. But if you are somebody in a relationship with these diagnoses and these labels aren't going to help you one bit. They're not going to matter. Nobody I've coached and talked to have said, okay, well, hey, Kevin, after we talked and you helped me to understand that I was dealing with just a cluster B, the relationship's been great ever since, right? That has never happened. It's never happened. I believe, this is just my opinion, that when it comes to all of these labels, diagnoses, NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, cluster B, psychopath, sociopath, whatever path is out there, all it is, I've said this before, it's science and medicine's best way to understand and articulate the difference between Cain and Abel. Okay, what's the story of Cain and Abel? We got two brothers. One's a murderer. One just wants to serve and do the right thing. All right. Ever since then, people have been trying to categorize and diagnose, and I know that it might seem as an oversimplification. Kevin, you're just black and white thinking. You're saying that there are just murderers, and then there are people who are not. And, well, the reality is that's very true. We do have to accept that we live in a society. Now, sure, as human beings, we are all very complex. Now, all of us are capable of doing horrible things, but not all of us have a drive and a desire to do horrible things. And this is the difference. And this is where the labels come in. Asshole, psychopath, sociopath. It's an innate, if you will, characteristic, if you will, a trait, if you will, of desire to inflict harm, inflict cruelty, inflict bullying onto other people for their own selfish gain. And this is all we need to know. Now, in the ancient biblical text, they didn't use the word narcissism. It didn't really exist yet. They only understood the world in terms of good and evil, right and wrong. And this is part of the problem with all the labels that we've created is we've kind of lost the sight, if you will. We've lost the concept of just right and wrong as it pertains to our own life. Instead of living and engaging with people and using our best discernment and our judgment to judge others, to really determine if they are right or wrong for us. Instead, we've fallen into this place of, well, they're making fun of me and they're bullying me and they're pushing me around and they're yelling and screaming. Well, what does this mean? Are they just an asshole? Okay, well, I guess I can no, wrong. I think in the context of your intimate lives, you need to be able to just differentiate right and wrong. You do need to, in a lot of ways, think black and white. You need to be able to judge in comparison to who you are, what's good for you, what's healthy for you in a relationship, what's going to help you to be the best version of you, and also what relationship gives you an awareness that you are benefiting them. Because whether or not you're dealing with a narcissist or an asshole, you lose sight of that. You don't know if you're any benefit to them. And by the way, if they're able to use you, you are a benefit to them, but that's not the type of benefit you want to be for somebody. You don't want to be just used by somebody. You're capable and you deserve to be in a relationship that's so much more. You deserve to be in an intimate relationship where, yes, you're giving, yes, you're loving, but it's appreciated and it's reciprocated. If it's not reciprocated and it's not appreciated, well, then it's just used and then you are abused. So in the context of our intimate relationships, we need to get to this place where it doesn't matter if you need to label them as a narcissist. It doesn't matter if you need to label them as an asshole, as a jerk, as a psychopath or a sociopath. So long as it gets the message across to you that you should not be spending any more time in an intimate setting trying to sort out what this other person is while you are standing there miserable and abused and demeaned and devalued and neglected. Because this is the only shot you've got in this life to live and to accomplish things and to know that you've lived a life operating out of the love that you have to give and receiving the love that you deserve to receive in return. So if we can focus on that, which is what I'm here to help coach people to do, you'll stop worrying so much as to whether or not you can label them a narcissist or you have to label them an asshole only. It's not going to matter. You're going to get to a point where you're just going to say, listen, I don't care what you are. All I know is you're not right for me. You're really rude to me, and you're aggressive, and you're hostile, and you're mean, and you're not reciprocating love, and you're lacking empathy. And these are the things that I need in my life to be the best version of me so that I can give you these things so that you can be the best version of you. And that is nowhere near what this relationship is. That's all that matters. So at the end of my experience with coaching people, I like to end the conversation. I had a client of mine recently say, Kevin, you are a conversation ender. Conversation ender. And I like that. I'll take that. And the reason is because I just draw that line. It is black and white. When it comes to your life and your safety and your health, it's black and white. There's no room for, okay, but asshole only, or but it's this disorder, or it's this function, or it's that, blah, blah, blah. No. You're wasting your time. And while you're wasting your time, you're limiting your own ability in this life to live authentically, to live with joy, at least the best joy that you can live with, and to be the best version of you. And at the end of this life, your only responsibility is to be the best version of you for the people who need you, for the world that needs you, for the children that need you, for the friends that need you, for those who care about you, who really need you. They're looking for the best version of you. There's no reason for you to stay in something that is limiting the best version of you while you're trying to sort out, are they narcissist or are they just an asshole? There's no need to waste any more time. Now, I'm going to continue to use the word narcissism unless there's some kind of ban on that word. And by the way, I have had siblings tell me that. Sometimes I get comments. In fact, I got a message not long ago. It said, Kevin, stop talking about this. Shut the channel down. Stop talking about narcissism. You're not qualified to talk about it. Listen, I don't care. I will take the word narcissism out, and I'll just start using asshole from now on, and it's going to be the same thing. My goal is to get you out and away from these people. Why? Because once again, it's just limiting your life. You know, the story of Cain and Abel exists so that you don't have to be Abel, right? It's not so that you can stand there like Abel did, unaware. The reason we're talking about narcissistic abuse is because now we can be awareness. It's exposed. So we can call it asshole, narcissist, it doesn't matter. It's exposed. And the point is that now you're stepping in to what God wants you to be, your Creator wants you to be, which is upright and righteous to the best of your ability, which means if you're going to be righteous in this life to the best of your ability, you have to be a better judge. You can't meddle around and try to figure out if you're dealing with narcissists or psychopaths or sociopaths or just assholes if they are not helping you to be the best version of you and you're not helping them to be the best version of them. End it with whatever label you want to end it with. And this is what we are here to do. As I said before, I am here to support you. Down in the description box, you'll find access for one-on-one appointments with me. I do take telephone calls as well as video calls through Zoom, FaceTime, and WhatsApp. So if you're uncertain what you're dealing with and you've been wasting 10 years of your life trying to sort it out, don't. Contact me so we can talk about it. I would love to end the conversation with you. Let's have just one conversation. See, I'm not here to keep you in a string of appointments month after month after month trying to sort out what you're dealing with. We're going to work together to take in all the information that you have for the past 10, 20, 30 years, 40 years of your life, and we're going to end the conversation and put you on a path based on your decisions that you have to make to become the best version of you and to stop worrying about the label of what you're doing, of what you're dealing with. All right, head on down there, schedule that time with me. I'll be back with more videos for you right here on the Royal We. And before I do go, I want to let you know that there's a video here for you to watch, and there's a video over there for you to watch. Both are recommended to you by the YouTube algorithm. They're both going to be good videos for you to watch. And I will be back right here on the Royal We. Be sure to like and subscribe to this channel if you have not already. Have a great evening.